This is Anna DiMaggio. I'm counsel with Orion Group Holdings, and I'm also a member of HYLA, Houston Young Lawyers Association, and we're grateful that you are here with us today. And I'm joined by several counsel from different companies. Agape Ogbonda, legal counsel for America's Air Swift, Caller Marlow, Assistant Vice President of Houston Company Trust, and Joanna Nakamoto, attorney with the Labor and Employment Law Department with Halliburton. Welcome, guys. Thank you for agreeing to talk today during this panel discussion about legal counsel and the role of legal counsel, the experiences you have, and possibly the differences between practicing in-house and practicing at a law firm. So I think our discussion today will be pretty laid back, and we're going to go in the order and just talk about some issues. And first, I think we should start with the background and experience, how you ended up being in-house. Agape, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Agape Ogbonda. I am legal counsel for Air Swift, which is a staffing and recruitment company headquartered out of the UK, but I'm based here in Houston. I've been in Houston since 2013, and my role pretty much encompasses all elements of the in-house experience. So everything from contracts, labor and employment law, litigation management, just general corporate governance, and working with senior management on some of the challenges that come up on a day-to-day basis. So in terms of my background and how I got into the legal counsel position, I actually went straight in-house. So you might be able to tell from my accent, I'm not from the US. So studied and did the equivalent of the JD back in the UK. But I have family out here in the US and decided to move over here. So I did my LLM at the University of Houston, and on graduation, I had some connections with UK staffing companies who were looking to build out their in-house or their compliance department. And what started as a compliance role then became an in-house legal role. And so from that, I was able to then go straight in-house, essentially. So that's my background.
That's cool. Beautiful accent.
Thank you.
Who wants to go next? Caller?
Sure, I'll go. I'm Caller Marlow. I'm at Houston Trust Company right now, and I was at a trust department at a bank prior to this. I've been here about almost a year and a half and was there for almost 2 years. And I went there straight out of law school. I went to South Texas here in town and started at Frost Bank soon after. And I got into that because I had been interested in estate planning. And after speaking with estate planning attorneys, they said that this would be a good place to go because you get to have a lot of client-facing experiences and get to know your clients more than just when you're working on their wills and trusts with them, which I've really enjoyed. I've liked having long-term relationships with clients and working with them very closely for long amounts of time. So what we mostly do here is trust and estate administration, and so that's probate, and we work with a lot of law firms with that, and coordinating with the CPAs with 706 and those sorts of things. But then the trust administration part, where the administration after the trusts have been formed, we talk with the beneficiaries and help them with their distributions and just estate plans. So I've enjoyed it very much, and this has been my main experience out of law school. So I look forward to talking about it more.
Interesting. Joanna?
Hi, my name is Joanna Nakamoto. I'm an attorney for Halliburton. I work mostly in the labor and employment department, and the way our company works, or the law department works, is it's split into two hemispheres. We have a Western and we have an Eastern hemisphere, where Western is the United States, and then Eastern is everything else. So I'm primarily just in the United States, so I'm in the Western hemisphere. portion. Before I came to Halliburton, after law school, I actually went to a plaintiff's firm, which practiced labor and employment. I was there for 1.5 years, and I did everything from the very first demand letter all the way through trial. So I went through state trial and federal trial, discovery and depositions and motions and everything. And then one day I saw an opening for a labor and employment attorney at Halliburton. I decided to apply, I interviewed, I got the job, and so I've been there about 1.5 years now. I think, but prior to going to Halliburton and prior to the plaintiff's law firm, I also was a law clerk for Union Pacific, but I did that while in law school. So after I kind of did some plaintiff's work, I kind of wanted to go back to working for a company. This one is very different as compared to Union Pacific, where Union Pacific had a lot of the in-house attorneys do the litigation. Here at Halliburton, there is a lot of litigation, but I do more managing of it. As opposed to doing the litigation myself, but it's been a great experience so far. So I have a little bit, almost equal amount of time spent doing litigation of plaintiffs as I am in-house right now.
Thank you. And I'm Ana DiMaggio. I work for Orion Group Holdings. I represent, and the client is a construction company. We specialize in marine construction and in concrete construction. We're building a lot of interesting projects around Texas, Florida, and other areas in the US, including Alaska and in the Bahamas too. I'm primarily servicing TIS, commercial concrete at this moment, and I enjoy my work a lot. I'm working with contracts. I'm also managing outside counsel. I'm working on exciting projects with the project teams, advising them on various construction law issues, estimating departments, and our safety department. So it's very fun, diverse, and very, I would say, rewarding experience. And it's quite different from law practice. I've been in-house. My first job in Texas was at a construction company, but I decided to go back to the law firm experience to see what it's like just to be a practitioner. And I really, really loved that experience. I did federal law and I practiced state law in the state courts and appeared in front of various judges. It was fun, but eventually a position opened up with the team that I used to work at my previous construction company. And I was invited, and I thought it was so fun working for the people I used to work for, and I want to go back. So similar to what Joanna said, I knew I wanted to go in-house eventually for a number of reasons. And that leads me to a question to all of you. What do you think is the most rewarding in your job? What do you think is a lot of people in law school, especially right now during the COVID-19 times, are wondering what they should do with their lives. And some of them weren't able to get a job, are wondering whether they should go in-house, whether they should go practice at a law firm. And right now, with the possibility of online and remote work, I guess their decision-making is shifted toward more work-life balance, and they can travel anywhere and really work anywhere if they want to, if they can, or just stay home and work from home. So would you recommend working in-house? And if so, what would be your main reason for that? Because I personally can say that I definitely would say that working in-house is a lot of young people. I noticed a trend that a lot of young people started going in-house and working as in-house counsel right out of law school. Like Heller, she didn't really go at a big law and stay there for 10 years, reach the partner, and then join the corporation, which used to be the case a few years ago, but is not anymore. the trend is changing and more young people are joining corporations and are completely capable of providing legal advice. So to me, the benefit of going in-house is the ability to work with one client. And I just love seeing how rewarding everything I do is. Whereas at a law firm, you're just, as a first, of course, and then for the first 5 years, you're just working and trying to balance your life somehow, trying to get as much experience as you can. In-house, you're working and creating a strong relationship with the team you're working, and you see the benefits of your work pretty much on a daily basis, because the projects get done, the claims get handled, the contracts get reviewed and negotiated to the benefit of the company, and the risks are mitigated properly, compliance is enforced. So every day there's such a big variety of issues that get handled on a day-to-day basis that I feel like I just love being able to see that everything I do has an impact on the people in the company.
I agree. So I think working in-house, you feel much more like a team, essentially as a family. And these are people that outside of work, we have a company soccer team. So every Thursday we're out playing within the league, within Houston. And so that does help the relationship as well, whereby you should buy yourself some time if things are busy, because you do have a personal relationship across the stakeholders within the organization. But most importantly, I feel like I'm part of the decision-making process. And so, like you said, you get to see the start of projects and see them out to the end across various different lines. Sometimes that means you see the start, you see the wins, but you also see the losses and kind of share those together as well. But yeah, I think one of the most rewarding parts is feeling like you are part of that management process and part of the decision-making process. And so you get a last-minute call to hop into a room, hop into a meeting, dealing with clients, dealing with management. So that's the rewarding side for myself.
I agree that a very rewarding part is getting to see the projects all the way through, but then also getting to have a lot more time with the clients. And I worked at a law firm in law school, or as an intern, and I would do all the back work, but I never got to talk to the clients and see the issues myself and that sort of thing. And here, you're the main point of contact with, well, in my case, CPAs, and then outside counsel that we work with, and then the client. So that is something that has been very different, and I also really like, because you get to have your fingers in a lot of different things, and it's different every day. And it's, but being very involved in the specifics has been something that I have enjoyed a lot.
I would, oh, I'm sorry. Are you finished, Kaylor? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. I would say I agree with all the panelists, and to add to the experience, the benefits of the experience of working in-house is I have 2 kids, so they're 9 and 12, and so the work-life balance is actually really good compared to when I was in a law firm. I mean, it's pretty much kind of like a corporate schedule. There are things that, not to say that things don't come up, because things do come up off the clock and stuff. And, the company provides me a phone, so I'm technically always on call, but it's a lot less stress than a law firm. You're definitely working with just one client. So there's that. I mean, everything that I do is for the betterment of the company. The company also has great benefits. The law firm I worked at before, it had pretty good benefits, but working for an organization that's huge, they have way better benefits with medical and dental and things like that. One of the crazy things is that this past year with COVID and everything, right? Everything is unprecedented. It's been kind of a roller coaster ride for me as an attorney and in-house counsel, as a labor and employment attorney. So it's been really interesting and kind of exciting to kind of be at the forefront of decisions, kind of to Agape's point, about how the company is handling things. And so there's the benefit of that too. And I think one last benefit that I personally enjoy, I think probably because I was a litigator before, is seeing the way different outside counsel handles things. We work with so many different outside counsels, and they each have a unique way of doing their own thing when it comes to handling our cases. And so it's kind of neat to see how they take on, the matters that we assign to them.
Would you say that, Joanna, would you say that your experience in litigation helps you on your day-to-day practice in-house?
Oh, absolutely. I rely on it a lot. And I think that's because I kind of going through the whole litigation thing and trial and like I said, all the discovery and depositions, you kind of know why certain decisions need to be made. And outside counsel will always come to you and ask you, what do you think of this? Sometimes we'll kind of strategize together about how to move forward on something. So I definitely rely on it to help me make decisions that I feel are going to be best for the company. And like I said, I learned from the outside counsel as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I strongly feel that the experience at a law firm is helpful in managing outside counsel, but also even for drafting contracts, you already can anticipate the risks and try to mitigate them. But just knowing what the value and jurisdiction clauses state and other clauses that if you're right out of law school, you're not necessarily familiar with the, outcome of having the contract signed, and then later on, if there is a claim, the risks that come with that. So I definitely think that for people who are staying at a law firm, I hear a lot of questions. Hey, how did you get in-house? How should I get in-house? They ask that all the time because they're looking for a life-work balance. And my response to that is that in my personal opinion, that is not anybody else's opinion, but my personal, if your work-life balance is really suffering at the law firm and nothing gets done, maybe you should not necessarily go in-house, but maybe it's just a not right fit, not right culture for you, different culture. But overall, I worked at several law firms, and I can say that some have great work-life balances and some not so much. So it also depends. But if you are wondering, oh, I'm practicing litigation, I will never be able to go in-house, I don't have the necessary skill set, I would say that's totally in your mind, because it's just a limiting belief. I'm personally using it all the time in my daily practice.
Yeah, I will say, like I said, went straight in-house, so didn't go through the private practice route. And so in the back of your mind, you'll always have that fear where you don't know what you don't know, and kind of wonder what would life have been like, or your skills, or your general practice of law. What would that be like if you'd done private practice and seen perhaps the litigation side from start to end? But at the same time, I think it still goes back to some of those key lawyering skills, which is being able to problem spot, issue spot, and also your relationships with the business. And when you do come in and go in-house, you have to appreciate that even if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're not the most experienced, and the business folk have been through so many of the situations before. So you need to lean on their experience and their knowledge of the business, as well as then your outside counsel and those relationships that you've developed throughout your career, from law school all the way through to wherever you are at that current moment. They're so critical to your development, as well as then your own research and your own commitment to your own career to further yourself. And that will then help with your ability to just spot the issues and constantly learning. So yes, even if you didn't go to private practice, there are so many different ways of being able to navigate that on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, I absolutely agree. There are always situations that you have never experienced before. And I think what law school teaches is analytical skills. And once you have those analytical skills and you have the right tools offered to you by the company, you can then expand and grow and learn more. And definitely there is that counter beneficial relationship between the project teams and the legal counsel, where I learn every day so much about construction, about the industry, about how things work on the project side, and they learn from me about how contracts work, why it's important to negotiate this or that clause, and why they should immediately give me a call if there is an issue, a certain issue. So it's definitely very counter beneficial. It's not just you're here, you have all the experience, and just all the law firm experience may not be necessarily that will benefit the department, the operations, the revenue making department, because in the end, it's definitely to a big extent about the relationships that you have with the people and how willing they will be to listen to you. Do you guys, Keller, can you think of anything that you don't like in-house, or maybe that you liked while you were practicing at a law firm more?
Well, something that's different about where I am and in the industry I'm in from other in-house jobs is that I'm an attorney working here, but I'm not an attorney for the company. So, which kind of speaks a little bit to what y'all were just talking about with how litigation or other types of law of practicing would be beneficial to, and how you completely could go in-house, because a lot of what we do is issue spotting and directing to attorneys, or just seeing that this is a problem, what people are trying to do within their trust or estate plans, and letting them know about that. However, we can't fix it for them because a firm attorney needs to do that. So we'll direct them that way. So that's been something that is different, and it took some getting used to from what I expected going into it, that if I saw an issue, I couldn't just say, well, here's how you need to fix it and here's what you need to do. I would need to direct them to someone else to do that. But I don't mind it. It's sometimes it's kind of nice, because then you can just tell them, go see it at your estate planning attorney. But that's been something that I think people would have, but something to keep in mind in this area is that it's not always, you don't get to, if you find an issue, hopefully they'll come back and everything's fixed and you get to go along. But you don't always get to, or you don't get to just fix the contract or fix the real estate deal or the estate plan, the trust or the tax issue or whatever it is. That we don't carry malpractice insurance, so you're not allowed to do that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But however, the training from law school has been invaluable with finding problems like that, and or that people come up with and are trying to do. So it's definitely beneficial to have a law degree in this area and in this sort of company.
Right. Would you go back to a law practice if ever you had a choice to?
I've thought about it, but like Joanna was talking about, the work-life balance is very nice at a company and not being in a firm.
Right. Joanna, can you think of any disadvantages of being, or maybe the benefits of being in a law firm versus being in-house?
I think the only thing that I actually sometimes do miss litigation just because you're at the forefront of things that change, of laws that change. And so sometimes, you know, I kind of see arguments and I think like, I really wish I could make that, you know, but as an attorney for the company, you're not really out there like that. I mean, your role is to, you know, be an attorney for the company. And so in particular, when I was a plaintiff's attorney, right before I left to start going in-house, there was a case that was that we were going to bring to the Fifth Circuit an appeal. And I really, really wanted to be the one to write it because I thought it was a great argument. I thought it would change a lot of things, but the timing was off. And so I couldn't, I ended up going in-house and another attorney took it over and wrote it. And of course I was nosy. I wanted to pace her to see what she wrote, you know, if I would have made the same arguments and stuff. So, you know, you don't, I guess the litigation skills kind of, at least in my case, you know, like I said, some other companies may take on more litigation, but in my case, I don't get to do as much litigation, so I do kind of miss it. And that's really the only downside, if you want to call it a downside. I mean, it's not to say that I don't work with our outside counsel to make those arguments for us, you know. So it's just kind of being behind the scenes and not so much at the forefront as the person who's trying to make a change for something.
Yeah. What about the tools? Do you all feel like you have enough tools at law firms? We are provided with all kinds of Westlaw access with all sorts of legal tools, budgets for conference participation, CLE credits. Do you have to handle that by yourself, or do you have an assistant who helps you in-house?
I don't have an assistant. That would be an interesting dynamic if I could have one. But yeah, no, there's enough support from the business for Westlaw and the likes and conferences, both within the industry, but also within ACT for corporate counsel as well. So there, you know, again, I've not been in private practice, but I feel there's enough support. I think just going back to some of the disadvantages or some of my dislikes of being in-house, I think you're constantly trying to find new ways of saying no to people about saying no. So I have a friend who says, if he gets asked a ridiculous question, he'll say, I'm beginning to feel some heart pain. And then he then explains what the heart pain is as opposed to just saying no. So now people know that he regularly has heart pain. Whenever they have a silly question. But I think prior to COVID as well, working in an open plan office, so there's a certain level of availability where people will come up to you and ask you a question. And you've got to be very good at either providing an answer on the spot or kind of building a wall and saying, let me take some time to get back to you. But people expect a quicker turnaround because you're right there in front of their face. Whereas, you know, if you're in private practice, you can shield calls from your client and get back to them at a later date. So those are some of, I guess, my disadvantages of being in-house, but it's still a fun environment. And, you know, I work in a sales environment that, you know, SWIFT is essentially a sales company, sales of people solutions. And those guys are constantly pushing the envelope, asking why you can't do this and why we can do that. And so you're constantly, it raises your level up to make sure that you're providing robust answers and also supporting the business. So.
Would you feel like you're challenged enough and fulfilled and you're using your full potential working in-house too?
Interesting question. Full potential? Yeah, I believe so. I think it's just, it's a different skill set, different range of skills. And it depends on what skills you want to utilize at a point in time in your career. So in that sense, yes, in terms of the skills that I'm using, I'm being pushed and there's still room for growth, always room for growth. It's a huge organization and my role looks after the US, Canada, and Latin America. So there are constant dynamics. You know, you asked about work-life balance before. One of the challenges is, especially once you start to take part in some of the global projects, it might have been Martin Luther King Day yesterday for us here in the US. It wasn't a vacation for the rest of the world. And so whilst you think you're on vacation, if a question comes through from another region and they need an answer urgently, you then have to respond relatively quickly and try and push it back. But you're constantly on. So yeah, you're being pushed and you're always growing.
That's awesome. I feel like that's so important. So when I was practicing at a smaller law firm, I spoke with a coach about professional goals, and she just mentioned who was actually speaking for HYLA, Amy with Epicromatic. And she asked me, I was just talking about my experiences and what I do, and you can talk for hours. And then all she asked was, well, imagine if you stay working there for the rest of your life, what would you feel? What would you think? And I just sat there quiet and I said, well, I would be happy, but maybe not 100% happy. I wouldn't feel completely fulfilled. And she just sat there quietly. And then she said, that's sad. And that stuck with me for so long. And now I just don't feel that at all. I feel like I definitely am using my full potential in terms of learning, in terms of, and I'm not saying that every in-house position is like that. I'm sure there are different specialties and different companies, and of course, different relationships. But if you got the relationship part of it, I think most of the time you would be sufficiently challenged by just doing so many different types of work you do. Would you all agree, Joanna and Keller?
I agree. Something that I find very fulfilling is that you learn so many different things about different areas, legal issues, but then also just how businesses are run and how to deal with clients and how to tell people no a lot. And I feel like you get a really wide range of skills from being in a company versus in a law firm. A lot of relationship, like you were saying, a lot of relationship skills. And
do you also sometimes, do you think that an in-house job requires soft skills as opposed to more aggressive skills?
I haven't been at a firm to compare really, but it's a lot of soft skills and a lot of working with
communication.
Yes, and in trust and estates, it's a lot of helping people budget or telling them that they can't buy or have what they think they should or deserve or whatever it is. And so there's a lot of just learning how to know you're doing the right thing, and no matter what, if internally knowing you're doing the right thing within the company. And sometimes clients get really upset about it, but I've learned how to just have really thick skin towards a lot of people. In a lot of ways, but so it's kind of a different sort of relationship, because sometimes if you're doing the right thing for the company, then it's not always what the client wants, which is not what you would expect. But in the long run, it's what your fiduciary duty to do for them. So that's been an interesting balance to learn and to be comfortable doing.
Right. Joanna, do you think that you're using a lot of soft skills in your daily practice?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things for my company anyway, so my company obviously is an oil and gas company. It's not a law company. So my department in particular is, either trying to protect the money or it's costing money. So that means everybody else in the organization is actually doing work to bring money into the company. And so it's a lot of, tiptoeing and, holding people's hands and working really closely with people, being very mindful of their time. When we have to pull them aside to prep for things or get, do interviews or whatever, just being really mindful of their time and stuff. And some people we have to, bring back and talk to multiple times, and that's taking away from their ability to do their job, which is to make money for the company. So it is soft skills. It is just working really closely with the business, just having the skill set to be able to talk to all different kinds of people. My company in particular, we have everybody from, field workers to, management people. So the way you talk to them is very different. What they understand tends to be different. So how you frame things and how you explain things and situations to them has to be different. And I think that is definitely one of the benefits of working for a company, for sure.
Right. I would definitely agree with that. I know that there are rumors. I'm not sure about the veracity of the rumors, but they say that there was an employee who would just have a sign on his desk saying, "Your lack of planning is not my emergency." And with that attitude, there's no wonder why he didn't stay with the company for too long. It's just not the right attitude. When you are working in-house, you have to be mindful of other people's times, especially when they're the ones bringing revenue and paying your salary, and you're servicing them and trying to be helpful as opposed to making their lives more difficult. Another area I think that's really interesting to talk about for in-house counsel is that there's sometimes a thin line between being a lawyer and being, in a way, a decision maker, because every time you make a decision while you're drafting a contract, in a way, it's impacting the company, and you're more of a decision maker and executor as opposed to simply a lawyer. While you are given certain directions and guidance from the management team on how to proceed, there's still so many times where you will have to use your judgment or advise the management on where you think they're making a mistake, or where you think, and explain in simple terms why you think that would be beneficial or adverse to the company's interest. So I think that's what you really don't even get practicing law at a law firm. You're just, going level after level most of the time, year after year, progressing. Maybe once you reach partnership, you get to where you're making decisions. But being in-house, pretty much, you're getting closer to the decision makers, and you're making decisions yourself. I think Agape mentioned that briefly too. Do you agree with me, Agape?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, you're part of the decision-making process, and the challenge is you're wearing multiple hats at different times as well. So sometimes you are the lawyer in the room, sometimes you are just, from a business perspective, I think this is a bad idea, plus here are the legal risks, or I think this is a good idea, depending on what the issue is. So again, that's part of the enjoyment of it, but you always have to be careful as well in terms of making sure you're clear when you're giving legal advice, and also then when you're giving business advice as well. Also, part of it is just the relationships and knowing when and who the client is and at what level of management the client is as well. Just because you kind of have a sense of where some of the senior managers will want to have a heads up on things that are going on within their team, and knowing when to bring people in. So that's, again, that relationship is key, where you're building relationships with people across the organization. You know what they like, what they dislike, and how informed they need to be or desire to be on certain things, before you then make decisions or have a sense of where they want to go.
Would you get an MBA or any other executive degree in the future? Have you thought about it?
I've given this a thought. I think if I don't feel that I necessarily need an MBA, for example, I'll just be doing it for the sake of doing it and don't really have the time. So yeah, I don't necessarily want to go in that direction just yet, but you never know.
Right. Joanna, have you ever thought about pursuing a different degree just to assist you in your role, in your current role, or to advance you
Oh yeah.
professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely have, thought about, doing an MBA program, but kind of at the end, I don't know if the benefits of learning that, taking on all of that would be justification, well, for the cost, obviously, it's expensive. I mean, the law degree in itself was expensive. So then tacking on another degree on top of that, but just the benefits I would get out of it, I don't think would be as good as I think it would for what I do. So I think it is helpful for people to have. If you have it, if you're thinking about getting it or you already have it, absolutely. But as somebody who's already practicing in-house, I don't think so. I mean, for me anyway, for me.
Keller, have you thought about anything, MBA or another degree?
I agree with a lot of what Joanna said, that I've thought about it, but it's hard to tell the cost versus the benefit that it would be long term. But I also feel like in the trust and estates and banking industry, it's something that a lot of people value a lot. So that makes me think that maybe it would be something beneficial, but the long-term benefits and the time it would take are what have kind of kept me from pursuing that anytime soon. So at this point, it's not something that I feel like I need to pursue, but it's something that I realized that I might need to think about at some point.
Yeah, I think with just like any degree, I think unless you have a clear reason or path as to what you'll do that after, it doesn't really make sense to take on debt for the sake of taking on debt. So unless you have like this is the clear plan of what an MBA would provide or how it would enhance my career at this stage, it's not quite there for me. So it's just not been a major consideration.
Or if somebody gave you a scholarship to get an MBA,
right?
Wouldn't that be great? Do you guys have any other professional development tips or maybe advice for in-house counsel, for other in-house counsel who are working in-house and maybe don't necessarily have all the resources that lawyers working into law firm have? Can you think of anything specific? For one, I can always say that networking is number one thing to do, whether you're working in-house or at a law firm. Just try to attend a lot of events, and every single resource and professional development you will read or listen to will refer to showing up. So just try to show up to as many events as you can. Be nice to people. And try to get to know as many people as you can, especially in the industry. And I think a lot of lawyers who work for law firms and want to go end up being in-house counsel would reach out, but they don't really always necessarily ask the right questions. Like they just reach out and tell me what they did or what they want to be, or where they want to end up. I want to be a general counsel in 10 years. I want to be a senior counsel in 5 years, or I have all this experience litigating. But I think the most important thing, based on, it sounds like all of our answers and based on our discussion today, is that when you're reaching out to a company, think about how can you add value to that company, what you will contribute to that company, how your skills can quantify in the actual results for the company. And most of the I think executives working for companies, for corporations, are very data-driven people. So you would want to show them numbers, how you can numerically almost, how you can advance the revenues of the company, how you will help them achieve better results, save cost, and contribute to whatever department you're applying to. But for professional development, definitely, I think number one thing is networking. And also people, in my opinion, are the best source of information. You can seek information in all the books and all the resources you want, but ultimately, people around us are the ones living in our communities and doing things. And you can learn so much from just showing up. And it's harder today, but there are so many Zoom events, and HYLA offers a lot of great Zoom events. So I encourage every young lawyer to try to participate in those.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the key things is, like you said, networking, but in addition, just building meaningful relationships with people. Your networking and the relationships that you develop will take you far in your career. And that includes just having mentors as well. My mentors are GC at a competing company, for example, who, again, open relationship. If I have questions, ping her a text, and she usually provides me with an answer, as well as then helping me around just navigating the corporate structure and some of the issues that I face here that she's been through before in her role. So, building meaningful relationships, but also just a desire and willingness to learn, because you just, so much of your why the company looks to you is because of your knowledge, your legal knowledge and skill, first and foremost, before anything else. And so you just have to stay up to date, make sure that you are moving with the times. And then, those soft skills, working with people and communication, that's also integral as well. So just constantly working on that. And I think it will then guide you well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think HYLA has some mentorship resources too. You can ask Lucy or send me an email. And I think we're having a separate program this year for mentorship. The Professional Development Committee was also going to plan a mentorship program. It's still in the working, so stay tuned for that. If you can all think of another way to find a mentor, I'm really interested in that. I think it's not easy to find a good mentor who will really care about your professional growth.
I think for finding positions and for mentors, I think we've kind of talked about this, but reaching out to people is huge. That people like to, or in my experience, people like to, well, nowadays have a Zoom call or coffee over Zoom, but in normal times go to lunch or something, and you can really find out what a position is like or an industry is like, and if you think it would be a good fit for you, just from reaching out to people who are in it and hearing what they have to say and their advice for you. And with mentors, I think that's a good way to get connected with people too, is they can say, oh, well, this person would be really great for you to contact, and connect you with mentors and people who can help give you direction that way.
Right. So participation in organizations, maybe alumni groups, could help you meet more people.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Alumni groups are good. Reach out to the law school that you came from. They probably have mentorship programs set up. Also, your peers who you graduated with, that you went through law school with, might also have connections and stuff. So those networks are important to keep up as well.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see any questions as of yet. If anybody has a question and wants to ask a question, feel free to. And we still have a few minutes to go. If anybody wants to add something at the end of the discussion. So I have a question. How do you, I guess, select the outside counsel? Do you Joanna, you said that you participate in the management of litigation and outside counsel. How would you say that you endorse or select that the outside counsel for your purposes? What do you do? How do you base your decisions on whether, okay, we're staying with these guys, I love working with them, or I don't think this was a very good idea of hiring them, and
Well, so
the decisions
right.
of decisions.
So I think all of the outside counsel that we work with already had an established relationship with the company before. We will ask them, is there, any new attorneys, or even kind of a diversity push too. So if they have diverse attorneys, that helps as well. But really it boils down to the work. There are some law firms that we've worked with, and not really so much a law firm, but maybe a particular associate in a law firm who just kind of didn't do that great of a job, or just was like a hassle to work with and stuff, that we have, slowly pulled work away from. And then there's other ones who have done absolutely incredible, where they started off with a small chunk of whatever matters we assigned to them, and it has just gone bigger because the work has just been outstanding. They've been so understanding of us and our position. And I think the biggest thing is they know our industry really well. So they don't have to start from ground zero on learning everything. They know it. I mean, a lot of times some of these outside counsel knows it better than I do, because I've only been there a year and a half. So I learn a lot from them as well. And so I think when it all boils down to really the work, the quality of the work that they do.
Yeah, to me, it's important also. The communications part is super important. We're all lawyers. We're all super busy. We're all a lot of us are parents and have families, and everybody's busy. Everybody doesn't get enough sleep. And we try to be successful. But it's so important for me to hear back from outside counsel at least once a month, to just let me know, even if there's absolutely no progress and there is radio silence from the opposing side, from the court, and there are no developments, just send me a quick email saying there are no developments, just so I know you're still there and you haven't forgotten or abandoned our case. I feel like not everybody, unfortunately, understands that. And I mean, everybody has a lot of cases and life going on, but here and there, if there is good communication with your outside counsel, and obviously if they know what they're doing and they know about construction, then that's great. I would say that's a very good indicator. We have one question. Are any of you involved in the hiring process, and what do you look for in candidates? That's a great question. Does anybody want to answer that?
So we just went through the hiring process. We're a very lean team here in the US. But we went through the process, and with this individual, it's the knowledge of the subject matter, as well as their experience, and then just some of their, some of the technical skills, as well as their soft skills, and getting a sense of what their capabilities are. So it really depends on the role as well. But I think sometimes it's just the drive and how hard and how prepared they are to work. We're on call pretty much all the time, so I need someone who's prepared to go the extra mile. And we're all in this together as a team to make each other look good and make the department look good. As Joanna mentioned, we're perceived as a cost center, so I need people to understand that, and are prepared to show that there is, show the value in the legal department and the legal team. So providing people who understand that perception and how they then provide value to the organization.
Yeah, I agree. Always concentrate on how you can add value to the organization. When I was leaving law firm, my last law firm, the partner I worked with, under his supervision, I worked, was a very wise man. And he told me, just always make sure you add value, because you are not going to be the person bringing revenue to the company. You are simply counsel that they need right now. But if something were to happen to the company's financial stability, the people who are not bringing revenue to the company would be the first ones to let go. So just remember that, be mindful, and make sure you have great relationships with everybody in your company or with the hiring committee, and just make sure that you're constantly letting everybody know how you, and contributing actually, and letting everybody know how you're doing that. I think that's very important for in-house counsel. So, and definitely technical skills too. Like Agape said, if you're applying for a tech company, you probably need to know some about technology, and computers and software and privacy. If you're applying for a construction company, it would be great if you can show some experience working for as legal counsel for construction companies before, and just try to outsource all the experiences you've had in life before to the specific area you're applying to and going to be working in. And we have another question. How do you decide when to seek assistance from outside counsel? That's a great question. How do you decide when you know, oh man, I can't handle this on my own? I think in our company, I mean, I can't speak on behalf of Orion. I'm just going to be speaking from my personal experience working in-house. As my personal opinion, generally the management of the company will decide in which cases, which claims could be handled in-house, which claims could be handled outside. There's usually a meeting where the president, vice president, possibly general counsel and other counsel may participate and raise different issues. The value of bringing some of the claims in-house as opposed to hiring and spending money on the outside resources. But so every company is different. And again, it all depends on the relationship and how persuasive you can be and what leadership skills you have to persuade your operations teams on why you think certain things can be handled in-house and where you think that they should go to the outside counsel. And also, most of the companies have insurance, so a lot of the claims, a lot of the issues that arise may need to be handled through the insurance. At least the insurance company needs to be notified, and then the decision is usually made based on the value of the claim, the amount of the deductible, how the certain claim may be impacting the future premiums for the insured. There's so many factors to consider while making that decisions that I don't think one in-house counsel can just decide for herself or himself and go from there. There usually has to be some decision making from the upper levels, and of course the decision should be made based on the advice of the legal counsel, in my opinion.
And I think to add to that, one of the things that I know for sure is sometimes it's about jurisdiction. So we have operations in California. And California is a state where, labor and employment law and issues change really rapidly. And they're so different compared to the rest of the country. And for that reason, we have to have help on it, just because I guess as in-house counsel, it would be a lot to keep up with. And then obviously we have operations worldwide too. So, I recently dealt with an issue in Malaysia a few days ago, and I had no answer for the person, so I had to get outside counsel help because I'm not, keen to the specific laws in that country. So sometimes for us, it's just a jurisdictional thing as well.
Thank you. There's another question. What does it take for a plaintiff side attorney to get an in-house counsel position? I feel like that's to you, Joanna.
It probably is. I was really, really fortunate because the in-house position that I sought was actually an entry-level position, pretty much, as I'm sure it probably was for the other panelists. So one thing that I did was, definitely in the cover letter, I made an argument for, it really was an argument for why the company was a good fit for me and why I was a good fit for the company. I put in there all of the litigation experience that I had, not all of it, but generally everything that I had, all the skills that I had developed over the time of being a plaintiff's attorney that would help them in their law department. So, I told them, I've done depositions before, I've done motions before, so it's not going to be that far of a stretch for me to read an outside counsel's motion and then figure out, whether this is good for the company or not. So it's really just drawing on the skills that you are getting in your experience and then fitting that to why it would be good for the company to have somebody like you. That's pretty much how, and obviously a stroke of luck too. Like I said, I'm very fortunate. The senior counsel who I work for, she's been an absolute wonderful mentor to me. She knows that, she knew that I didn't have a whole lot of defense experience, but she does rely on my plaintiff's experience to kind of issue spot things. Because, as a plaintiff's attorney, like if I knew that, I would, definitely sue you guys for that or something, so kind of bringing that other side argument that I know what it looks like from this side. And so I would be good at spotting that for you and kind of keeping the company's liability low.
That's a great argument.
Yeah. So things like that, I think really helped me for sure.
All right, guys, do you want to add anything else? We're running out of time. Well, I just want to add that it's definitely unprecedented times and it's been weird and different than what we were used to before, but there's still positions out there. There's still openings. There's still interest in in-house counsel and attorneys for law firms. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or to other panelists if they approve and consent to that. And thank you guys. Thank you, Agape. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Kaylor, for your time during this panel discussion today.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.